Welcome to Gold
Second.
Derby. I'm Senior Editor Denton Davidson here with Joel Peresman, Executive Producer and CEO of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Foundation. Joel, the 2023 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony aired live on Disney Plus on November 3rd, and incredible honorees and performances, really thoughtfully produced packages about each honoree. Can you walk us through a little bit about what planning and preparation goes into producing that sort of high profile and high stakes events?
Of course, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony, we really believe is truly music's highest honor, because what we're doing is honoring artists that are generational. They're not one-hit wonders. They're not people that kind of come and go. They're artists that have had lasting impact on other artists, on society, on culture, on their impact is immeasurable. And the planning that goes into it to be eligible for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you have to have as from the performer category, a recording that's been out at least 25 years from your first recording. So that really kind of makes us take a look at artists that have lasting impact and lasting influence, and not just had a couple of hits for a year like a lot of these events do, a lot of these shows. And that's what we really look at. We look at those artists. It's not about ticket sales. It's not about record sales necessarily. It's about influence and impact that these artists have.
And how do you balance honoring inductees while also bringing fresh talent to the younger audience? And we would love them to watch just for the ratings, but we also want them to appreciate these legends, and maybe these legends are being introduced to a new generation for the first time.
Well, that's why we really look at a lot of these events to bring in artists that are influenced by the inductees, that are friends that are, like this year on this particular show, Olivia Rodrigo came and played with Sheryl Crow. She loves Sheryl Crow. A couple of years ago, Stevie Nicks was inducted by Harry Styles. There's artists, we look to kind of make that connection for the inductees to the younger artists, because you can trace everything back to the original roots of rock and roll. But our job as an institution is to really teach people and engage people of what the importance of these artists and these inductees are and how it carries forward. Dave Matthews inducted at Willie Nelson. He was inspired by Willie Nelson as a young artist. I know they're friends through Farm Aid and whatnot, but we really look to try to get younger artists or comparable artists that were influenced by the inductees. It's important because these aren't one-hit wonders. These are generational artists.
How much influence do the inductees have on that? Do they make suggestions, or do you just bring
Sure.
bring things to them?
We bring things to them. I mean, we're looking, look, we're trying to produce an interesting show. We're trying to do also what our mission is as an institution. Because unlike a lot of these other shows, award shows, as it were, we're backed by a museum. And that's been open for over 25 years. And part of our mission is to tell the story about why these artists are important. So we bring ideas. We're looking to create those connections between inductees and other artists that are being inducted.
What were some of your favorite behind the scenes moments viewers may not have seen from the 2023 ceremony? What kind of secret stuff's going on back there?
It's not really, what's really fun is during rehearsals,
Yeah.
is to see these artists kind of come together. A lot of times that haven't played together. This year when we did during sound check, when we're doing the tribute for Robbie Robertson, where you had Elton on stage and who, doing the wait, that Chris Stapleton came in and Sheryl Crow came in, seeing them just kind of working it out during the rehearsals is amazing. Jimmy Page was the big surprise this year to celebrate the induction of Link Wray, who during rehearsal, no one knew. We really kept that on the down low, and it was a surprise that night because it's Jimmy Page. And he came when we inducted Link Wray, he called, said, "I'm inducting Link Wray. I'm coming. He's one of the reasons I'm in, do what I do." And that's what's key. I mean, there's all these spectacles, the Super Bowl is a big spectacle, and they're all big fun. But, these things are lasting impacts by artists that have been impacted by these inductees, by other artists. Jimmy Page talking about Link Wray, who a lot of people probably never heard of, was great. during the show, I was sitting next to LL Cool J when Al Cooper was inducted, and he knew nothing about Al Cooper. And during the show where we put together these films, he was like blown away. He didn't know that he, did this work with Bob Dylan and how he did Blood, Sweat, how he put these other bands together and all the other people that he produced Leonard Skinner. It was like crazy. He couldn't believe it. And that's our job. And that's what, those behind the scene things where people don't see it. Sitting next to someone of his stature who didn't know about an artist. And that's why this show is so interesting and so different. When you go from Willie Nelson to Missy Elliott in the same show, people know Willie Nelson probably never heard of Missy Elliott, but by the end of that show, they did. And the films that we produce that bring in other artists that talk about the importance of the artist and what it means, it just kind of tells that story. We're not revealing that night who won. We know who won. We know who are being inducted. Our job is to tell the story during the performances.
You mentioned Missy Elliott. She made history as the first female hip hop artist inducted. Talk a little bit about how the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has evolved over years, because you'll always hear, you hear people say, I'm sure you've heard it, she's not a rock star, she's a hip hop artist. Whitney Houston wasn't a rock star, she's a pop diva. Talk about, how all-encompassing this award is, and what are the qualifications? What is a rock star? What is Rock and Roll Hall of Fame worthy?
Well, rock and roll is a broad tent. I mean, you get, like you said, you get the people, and we get those letters. Wait, they're not, these hip hop, Jay-Z doesn't play any instrument. There's no, it's not the idea of rock and roll being bass guitar, drums, and a singer. That's not what rock and roll is. Look at the history of rock and roll. Look at our, how it started with R&B. It started with early country. If you can trace it back to where rock's roots really came from blues that developed into country, that all of a sudden Bill Haley and the Comets kind of took things, and Chuck Berry took things. And then it just blew out into all these different tributaries. It's all came from the same river, as it were. It's just a lot of different tributaries, and people, and again, that's our job, to tell why this artist deserves to be inducted, why, this Nina Simone was important to be inducted, why Donna Summer was important to be inducted, why Carole King was important to be inducted, why Jay-Z, why NWA, why Eminem. It's a broad tent. It's just not bass guitar drums. It's evolved, and people, and especially the artists of the 80s and 90s, they're telling different stories in different ways, but it's all, it's all rock and roll to us, to quote one of our other inductees.
What were the highlights from the actual telecast in 2023? I loved Willie Nelson's performance. I always love it when, and I loved Missy Elliott induction and everything that she said. What were some of your favorite performances or moments from the telecast?
Well, we kicked off the show, it was kind of a surprise to see Olivia Rodrigo playing with Sheryl Crow. I mean, people just don't put that connection together, and we put that connection together, and it really worked really, really well. And then Stevie Nicks comes out and plays with her, and it's like, and then Peter Frampton comes and plays with her. It's like all these people that influenced her, then she came to sing, and then another artist like Olivia came out to sing. Was amazing. Again, getting back to the Jimmy Page moment was amazing, because again, people didn't know he was coming. It was a surprise. The spinners into the Don Cornelius that New Edition did was a really interesting, was a great moment.
I love New Edition on there, yeah.
Great moment to really show that. But again, this is a kind of show where when you go again from Willie Nelson to Link Ray to the Spinners, it's something that just doesn't happen in other places.
What is the key to successfully engaging a live audience and making sure it transfers over to a viewing audience who's watching live on a television?
To keep it moving. I mean, one of the things that's great about being on Disney Plus is that there's no commercials. So while it creates its production issues, we book it that way and produce it that way to make sure that it just kind of flows from one to the other. And you keep on telling that story. And when you have the interstitial films that talking about the artist, again, having some of the interviews during the films, being able to tell the history, and then boom, to be able to all of a sudden and on stage to be able to create that moment, like we did with George Michael. George Michael, we had a great film with a lot of people talking about how influential he was. And then we come on and you have Carrie Underwood and you have Miguel and you have, being able to do these incredible performances, and Adam Levine doing that. It's because George Michael meant so much to them and them coming be able to do it on stage. I just think we keep a quick flow. We make it interesting. These are iconic artists that mostly people know, but then to be able to tell someone new about this is Missy Elliott, someone might have tuned in to see, Willie Nelson or Sheryl Crow, but then, hey, this is who Chaka Khan is. This is who Link Ray was. This is who Missy Elliott was. This is what they're important. And look at these artists that are there to help celebrate them. It's pretty cool. And like the DJ Kool Herc moment, you talk about great moments on stage. When he was up there and he was so emotional that he started to cry about how important that was to him. It's amazing.
How does the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony and process itself help to preserve and celebrate the music industry? I mean, how important do you feel this is for music?
Well, we call it music's highest honor, and I think it is because, again, we're backed by a museum that enshrines people, and besides having a Hall of Fame floor that has pictures and videos and exhibits about all the inductees, we're a teaching institution in a way, and our job is to tell both through the show and through the museum how important these artists are. And it's through interviews, it's through the show, it's through the special, it's through the films, it's through the performances, it's by the words of the other artists, the people that come that talk about and induct the other artists, like, what Dave Matthews talked about Willie Nelson, even Laura Dern talking about what Sheryl Crow, meant to her. LL Cool J talking about DJ Kool Herc, like how he was the godfather and the guy who truly started hip hop. You tell it through the words of other artists, how important these inductees are.
How has the ceremony itself evolved? Now, especially now that you're airing live on Disney Plus and you've got this wider audience,
Right.
I mean, it's really a bigger audience than you've ever had before,
It's a
correct?
much bigger audience because besides the Disney Plus audience, we also had an edited version that aired on ABC on January 1st.
Yeah.
And we did over 13 million viewers, cumulative viewers. I mean, we won the night on January 1st, beat, America's Got Talent and all, of all the other networks. It, had the highest ratings of the night, which was amazing for us. I mean, our partners at Disney and ABC have been great. They've really gone, along with our marketing team, really gone all out to kind of promote it. So, to do a live show, we've always kind of produced the show, even when we did edited versions when the show was on a different network, we've always produced it as a live event. So to keep it flowing and don't have stop downs and being able to, when we do have to do set changes, be able to have films that are able to show to kind of to make up that time in there so people aren't bored, so they have something to watch. So we've kind of kept the same format. We just kind of make it a little bit bigger.
And the ceremony is being submitted to the Emmys for Outstanding Variety Special Live. What would that mean to be nominated and finally get this ceremony recognized up with all those others?
It would be just mean the world to us because again, as a fan, I see the other ones that are out there and, they're big spectacles. I mean, I love watching the Super Bowl halftime show, but when you talk about what people's biggest moments are from the history of the Super Bowl halftime shows, they always involved inductees that are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the most part, for the most part. But they're one-off spectacles. We're talking about teaching and celebrating artists that are generational talents that made the music business, that affected culture, affected other artists. And that's why to be able, if we got recognized by being nominated, that would mean the world to us, because it just says we're taking another step. They're talking about our message, which is that this is music's highest honor. This is what people should know about these artists, and what about and about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And we've seen the list of the upcoming slate for 2024. Wow, what are you most looking forward to about the show coming up this October? A whole new
October
a whole new set of
19th on
inductees.
Disney Plus. Right. It's always fun to put the show together, because we have, again, you have this wide range of artists this year that are being inducted. When you go, from Foreigner to A Tribe Called Quest, it's pretty broad. I'm glad to see Dave Matthews being inducted. It's fun to be able to then put those and reach. We start doing our research with our teams about who is influenced by who, like we talked about earlier, trying to find those artists or other media people that were influenced by the inductees that can come up and talk passionately about them. Because this isn't like a lot of other shows that get their big star that's on another TV show to come and give some prepackaged little spiel, introduce the act. We find people that can come up and talk because they love the artist, and they're going to, they're influenced by them. It meant the world to them, and they give a heartfelt speech, just not some pre-written, hey, now here's best new artist of 2024.
Well, Joe, it's such a fun show every year. It's really one of my favorite award shows that I look forward to. And it'll be airing again on October 19th on
October
Disney
19th.
Plus,
Yep.
with a special airing on ABC and Hulu at a later date. And it's really great to speak with you. And thanks for the insight.
Well, it's our pleasure. I mean, we're just kind of hopeful to kind of step our footprint up a little bit, because again, it's an award show, but again, it isn't in a way, because we know who won. We're there to tell this story, and it's important because all these other shows that are out there, especially ones that are nominated and probably nominated in the same category, are by artists that are either inductees or influenced by inductees. So when to know where you're going, got to know where you came from, and that's kind of our job, to show where how important these artists were in the history of music.
Well, we're crossing our fingers you get some Emmy nominations this season.
That would be great. And I appreciate your time.